Connecticut, we age well, we age well, we all can. In Connecticut, we age well in every town across the lifespan.
Welcome to the Age Well Academy, celebrating that our communities are stronger when we all belong. The Age Well Academy is produced by the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative, a statewide cross-sector initiative that fosters aging, dementia, and disability-inclusive communities.
The Connecticut Age Well Collaborative is an initiative of
Connecticut Community Care, identifying choices and providing services and supports to help people of all ages, abilities, ethnicities, and incomes live their best lives at home.
We're also generously supported by
the Point 32 Health Foundation,
along with
the State Department of Aging and Disability Services,
and a growing number of funders and partners. This year, the Age Well Academy focuses on how your community can take action. Together, we'll examine neighborhood-level data available for every city and town in the state. We'll explore how local governments and community residents can build bridges to co-create more vibrant, accessible communities. We'll journey inward, examining our own minds and hearts as we work together to dismantle ageism, and we'll uplift amazing, inclusive places right here in Connecticut. Welcome to the Age Well Academy.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Karen Green. I am the Administrative Coordinator for the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative. In alignment with our commitment to emphasize access, equity, and inclusion, we're modeling best practices for a virtual presentation. We've enabled closed captions, and we will be describing images and other visual content that's displayed to assist anyone with a visual or cognitive disability. Those speaking should remember to identify themselves prior to their comments. And wherever possible, we have used a minimum font size of 22 in our slides. A link to the recording and any links shared today will be made available to attendees. If you need materials in a particular format, please let us know. We're learning and it's a work in progress, so we appreciate feedback on how we can do it better. If you want more information on creating and presenting in an accessible format, please contact us at ctagewell@ctcommunitycare.org. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Alyssa Norwood, the Director of the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. And thank you all for your time and care and your willingness to be here and listen and learn today. Again, my name is Alyssa Norwood, and I sit before you today wearing purple glasses and with long curly hair with gray flowing through what used to be darker, closer to black hair. And I'm wearing a rainbow scarf and a black long sleeve shirt and a big smile on my face, just because this is a really joyous time to be here in community with all of you and to explore these questions around inclusivity. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, Connecticut Community Care is a care management organization that works to help people live their best lives at home, and with support and services and connection to loved ones and community. And that work, that care management work, which has really profound influence for the folks who use CCC's care management services, is really heavily focused on a supportive and engaging and empowering home environment. But Connecticut Community Care, in founding the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative, recognized that for people to really thrive at home also requires a conversation with community leaders to make sure that the entire community is supportive of folks across the lifespan, regardless of age or ability. And there's a graphic on the right that has a number of different topic headings. So some of them in conversations about aging are maybe more familiar, like making sure that there are community and social services available for older adults. But the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative, as part of a really international movement, has been working to expand the conversation at the local level so that we all understand that we're part of this big interconnected ecosystem, and this beautiful journey of aging impacts all these dimensions of life. It requires affordable and accessible housing. It requires a well thought through connected transportation system that enables multiple kinds of mobility. So we're thrilled to be having these conversations with municipal leaders across the state. And we have several different ways we do it, all in the spirit of making sure that as we work with local governments, that we're building bridges to older adults in the community with lived experience who are actually engaged, as we all are, in these changing minds and bodies in this journey of aging. And through that journey, that we're also sitting in this stance of real self-reflection and understanding that we live in a world that gives us certain messages that really can be distilled down to being younger is better. And we all know that's not necessarily true. So, this idea of ageism, how are we doing this work and also dismantling ageism in the process? So I want to talk a little bit more about why ageism and dismantling ageism is at the heart of our work. And it really rests in a 2018 paper called The Waters of Systems Change. And there are other beautiful theories and emanations and papers that kind of get at this same idea. But for those of you that need a description of what's on the screen around system change conditions. So what you're looking at is an upside down triangle, and the top layer is where a lot of energy and life force goes. We talk about changing policies. That could look like advocating for a new law. It could look like disrupting a practice that's not working well. There's a box that says resource flows, right? We all know money is incredibly necessary for success in whatever we're trying to advocate for. And that's where a lot of conversation and discourse and effort happens. Where there's less energy, but is so important, are these lower layers of the upside down triangle. So the next layer talks about relationships, connections, and power dynamics. And then the bottommost layer is mental modes. So, what are our deeply held, internalized beliefs about what it is to age? And I love the image of the triangle because small shifts at the bottom, right? If you imagine this triangle tipping in one direction or the other, the smallest change in our understanding of mental modes, how we view the process of aging, has really profound effects on the policies, practices, and resource flows. So one example of that that we can share, and it's top of mind, this issue of housing. And I'm going to pause for a moment just so that we can make sure everyone's muted. Fantastic. I love lots of voices in the room, but one at a time. So this idea of housing, we are in an incredible time right now in for many reasons, politically, financially, socially, structurally, and this idea of insufficient, affordable, and accessible housing, it's always been there, and it's getting amplified in new and sometimes devastating ways. And one of the classical responses to insufficient housing for older adults is the building of senior housing. So thinking about and maybe asking yourself, why, as a policy matter, have we decided to age segregate housing? And I ask the question without judgment. It's not good or bad. And individuals may have a particular, oh, I think this is a good idea, or I don't think this is a good idea. But this idea of it's the default, right? We don't even think about it. It's baked into our systems that we create this siloed, age segregated housing. Where does that come from? If we had more time and more interaction, I would posit that the answer is ageism. So just some things to think about. And then the next question that I'll ask you, Arl, which is really the title of this webinar, and again, can be a space of your own internal reflection, or you might type a response into the chat, but this question of who is in your we, right? We're out in the world. I'm doing it right now, and we, right? We show up with this notion that there's this group in our head that we're representing when we say the word we. But who's in and who's out is a really interesting inquiry. So let's talk a little bit around the word inclusive and how that's related to the question, who is in your we? There is a drawing, a graphic design drawing on the screen of a typical town. And some of you might live in a place that looks a little bit like this, some of you might not. There might be some subtle differences. But some of the things that I'm noticing as I look at my screen is there are lots of different ways for folks to get around. I see cars, which is the dominant mode of transit in Connecticut, but I also see buses. I see bicycles, and I see a crosswalk and some other structures that make this accessible for pedestrians. I see pretty flat and unobstructed and wide sidewalks that might support someone with an assistive mobility device. I don't see anyone in this image using an assistive mobility device. So these are the kinds of questions, right, that we ask when we look at a place. Who in the design and in the thinking was thought about and who wasn't? And this really gets at the heart of what it is to be inclusive. And I just want to name that there's sometimes some confusion between accommodation and inclusion. And they're both important, but they're not the same. So accommodation is reactive. If I'm somebody who uses an assistive mobility device and there's no curb cut to be able to get down from the sidewalk and cross the street, and I advocate to the town and a curb cut gets included, that's an accommodation. It was reactive to a marginalized member of a community raising a hand and saying, I can't access, versus inclusion, which is proactive, where if we have an expansive we up front and we're mindful in the broadest possible sense and we're proactively designing places, spaces, programs in a way that acknowledges everyone, that's the gold standard. And it's hard. But it's what we work toward. And when we talk about age inclusivity at the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative, that's what we mean. It's proactive rather than reactive. So there are lots of different ways that we're trying to lead this work. And one is really just celebrating where great things are already happening. So we have a program called Age Well Across Connecticut that we're going to share a little bit more about today. And then you're going to hear from some folks in the community. So, what is Age Well Across Connecticut? It is a program that recognizes age inclusive places and programs. There are photographs on the left that show a sign that we send to folks who are on our list of local picks every year. So if you're out in the community and you see one of these signs, then you know you've come upon a place that's been selected as part of the Age Well Across Connecticut initiative. And why did we start this program? Why do we do this work? So one, we love that it's grassroots. So anybody in Connecticut can nominate, and it's really the community voice that's driving who and what is on this list. We love that it's tangible. So these are all places or programs that you can go to, right? They're places you can actually visit. We also hope that the list ultimately is a resource to all of you, right? We're places that are doing great work. And above all, it's celebratory, right? We're rightfully as advocates so focused on how to make the world better that it's really wonderful to have a moment and celebrate what's already great. So, what makes a place or a program eligible ultimately for selection is an Age Well Across Connecticut space. So, we have a couple of different criteria. One is that it's local, meaning that it must be in the state of Connecticut. Another is that it already exists. So, it's not in the idea form, it's not a concept, but it's already an established location or program. We talked about tangibility, right? It's somewhere that I or anyone else who's interested can actually go to. And that it's affordable, meaning that it's either free or that it's low cost. So, for example, a cafe that's exceptional in its inclusivity, where I could go and have a cup of tea, would be eligible. Something where there would be an expensive membership associated with it would not be eligible to be selected. We also have a criteria around, is it community building? So is this place or program something that's really helping foster a sense of connection? We give preference to user nominations, meaning that if I have a senior center that I think is excellent, that it's not the senior center staff that's doing the nominating, but somebody who actually attends and uses programs. And then the last is that it's beyond compliance. So we have a lot of beautiful work to do collectively around making sure that all places and spaces are in alignment and compliance with the American Disabilities Act and other laws. So if there's an organization or initiative that gets nominated because they're in compliance, while we're grateful for that work, it's not sufficient for selection. The idea is we're celebrating folks who have gone beyond compliance really to this next level of inclusivity. So that's what our selection criteria look like. And then here's a sample nomination. So what you're looking at, there's a photograph on the right of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail. It's a multi-use bike trail that also enables all kinds of other mobility. But I'm going to go ahead and read the nomination to give you a feel of what it is that we're celebrating. With the mission to build, maintain, beautify, and connect off-road multi-use trails throughout central Connecticut communities, this incredible network of paved trails gives nature access to folks with walkers, wheelchairs, or limited mobility. The trail is a linear park or greenway that begins in New Haven and wends its way 56 miles north to the Massachusetts border and beyond. The trails that I have used are well maintained and have easy parking and access to get onto the paved car-free trail. The trail has been such a miracle for me and my children. One of my kids is a wheelchair user, and having so many access points for walking along the Farmington River or in the beautiful woods of Connecticut has been such a gift. So, this is a beautifully crafted nomination. And if you are interested in seeing the full list from previous years, we'll ultimately put the link in the chat, but on the Age Well Across Connecticut subpage of the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative website, if you click on it, you'll have a list by year of all of our picks from 2025, as well as from 2024. And the list is also in map form. So on that same web page, if you go, you navigate, you'll land on a map. And then there are filters where you can click by year. So what you're looking at right now are all of the sites that were selected in 2025. There's another click to layer on the 2024 sites. And we're so grateful to all of you for helping us continue to co-create this product and build it together on an annual basis. And the web presence goes beyond just our website, but we're so excited for all of the energy that we've seen on social media. So on the left, the Cromwell Senior Center was selected last year, and there's an invitation to all of our nominees to share not just if they've been a recipient, but to folks who go and visit. So there's really some movement building, and it's just this beautiful coming together on these virtual spaces to try to inspire folks to go and enjoy new places or familiar places across the state that are really celebrating inclusivity. So that's the program, and we wanted all of you to hear directly from folks who engage with some of the previous community picks. So I want to invite an incredible group of guests that we have today, comprising a panel that feature two of our selections from previous years. So one is the Gathering Place Cafe at Live Well in Southington, and the other is the Arenz Respite Program at Milford Senior Center. So I'm so delighted, and we'll let our guests who are here with us today introduce themselves. So June and Leonora and Shazia and Carol and Janet, welcome. So glad you're here. And I guess it would be great if we could begin if you each introduce yourselves. So Shazia and Carol and Janet, could we begin with you?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Shazia Chaudhry. I am the Director of Community Inclusion and Belonging at LiveWell. I've been with this organization now for 19 years, and I just want to talk about the intentionality of just even my title, right? Community inclusion and belonging, not that I direct it, but we believe in it so strongly that we've created a campus where that really becomes the focus. And my friends over here, Carol and Janet, will talk more about this space, but introductions.
I guess it's my turn.
It's your turn.
I'm Carol Conklin. What do? I go to Live Well. I do classes. I help do classes that are being done. And I guess that's it.
That's
What you want to say? That's perfect.
And who am I?
You're my wife.
I'm Carol's wife, Janet Peck, wife and care partner. And yeah, Carol's been living well with dementia for about 10 years now, with Alzheimer's. And we found Live Well. We love it here. We do, as Carol said, classes. We do social groups. We do care partner groups. It's been a wonderful place to find.
So
That's fantastic. Shazia, Carol, and Janet, I'm so glad you're here. Shazia, I also want to name that you're a member of the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative Steering Committee and a partner. And it wasn't our intention today because there are all different ways to age well, but it so happens that both of our locations have intersections with cognitive change and dementia, which is its own beautiful discussion point. So, June, I'll turn it over to you next, and then Leonora to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm June Renzulli. I am on the board of Connecticut Community Care and the Milford Senior Center. Professionally, I was a funder of many aging programs and certainly was in the realm of aging and a founder of the Age Well Collaborative. So many different connections with aging. And then about 6 years ago, my husband developed Lewy body disease and I was his caregiver, and he passed away recently. But the Senior Center program, the Ahern's program, was just such a gift. And I'm thrilled to be talking about it and being here with Lenora.
Thank you. And Leonora, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Leonora Rodriguez. I'm the Executive Director of the Milford Senior Center. I've been with the center now for just under 7 years. I've been in aging services for 22 years. And to be honest, I may have not started my career path in this direction, but I am so happy to be here and of service of folks here in Milford and beyond.
That's great. And Leonora, I know we were talking a little before things started about this kind of accidental, right, movement into aging services. What do you love about it? What do you love about this work, right? Because it wasn't something that you picked, it picked you.
Sure. What I love about it, honestly, I'm a really big people person, but I'm very specific with the people. I tend to gravitate to always, since I was a little girl, to older people. It may be because I'm from an older family myself, but I prefer those stories, and I found them very patient. But I also found that there's so many people living alone, or their children grew up and moved away and they had no one to connect with. So I really enjoy that ability to be able to connect with people, and when possible, help solve whatever issues might be going on, whether it's something small that I can handle with the person or just be a listening ear, or if I need to connect them to other services and agencies in and around Connecticut.
That's beautiful. And, I know some of you who are on today's webinar are deeply involved in the work or maybe even leading senior center work, the specific focus though. So the Age Well Across Connecticut nominations, recognizing that every senior center does incredible things, but Age Well Across Connecticut isn't a place to recognize every single senior center. It's to recognize which senior centers are really going above and beyond around this idea of inclusivity. Leonore, can you talk more about the Arenz Respite Program, what it is, why it exists, and what's different about people experiencing cognitive change, and what does inclusivity look like? How do you create a sense of belonging for people experiencing cognitive change?
Sure. So the Aaron's Respite Program is now on its 33rd year, I want to say. It's been long going. It's currently the only social model program in the shoreline of Connecticut that offers this ability where family caretakers, family caregivers, or other caregivers has a space where within a senior center, a person can come, enjoy their day, just like it's any other day, with the exception of being able to make friends, have a great lunch, opportunities to engage in different programs of their interests. What I found is a lot of centers may shy away from this type of program, whether it's because of budgetary limitations. The structure of it is very precise. It does need to be cared for in a very specific way, although it's a social model and not a medical model. The shying away is oftentimes because what do we do? What happens if a person decides to wander off from the premises? I've heard that from other directors of the concern of what do you do? I came from medical model adult day programs in my past, so I felt very comfortable with this program. And what I loved about it is when you walk in there, you get this sense of just, everyone's kind of relaxed. It's not tense. I've seen people where their new members join us. And the first thing they'll introduce themselves to each other, and a person will say, "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to remember. I'm not going to remember your name." And everyone in the room will like, "Don't worry about it. We can't remember either. Don't worry." And this sense of like relief that goes on that person is like instantaneous. And then when the family members have that opportunity to see, okay, I have time for just a couple hours a day to be able to take care of myself, to do what I need to do, to stay in the workforce, whatever it might be. It's another level of this breathing out and finally feeling like there is support. And community support is so important. I found when I first started in this field, I was a therapeutic recreation. A recreational therapist in a nursing home. And when I first engaged with folks who were living with Alzheimer's or related dementia, I kind of asked myself, where's the family? Where are these people? How did they get here? And I really pondered this and say, well, what can I do? And this was so many years ago. I was obviously much younger, but I was wondering to myself, what can I do to make these people's days better if I cannot cure a person? Because I really am a fixer. I am a person who loves to give my heart and soul. And so I said, well, if I can't fix it, then how do I make them have a good day? Because at the end of it, it's how you end up feeling, right? It's all about not what you ate for lunch. It's not the art project, but how it made you feel, how you connected with others. So that became my primary source of moving along in my field and really wanting to develop a program that made sense. And when I walked into the Milford Senior Center, they already had that. All I did was add a little seasoning, as I would say, to it. Ensure that what we were providing to the families and to the members that were participating in the program were more than sufficient. It was almost over top. We want to make sure that if we were doing art, I want art therapists to also join us and lead in evidence-based programs. If we're doing music listening, no, I want a music therapist to also join us to have that part of it. And I wanted other professionals to join me. So the coordinator, the assistants that we have there, our social service coordinator, they all are in alignment to ensure that the individual, and I'll tell you, it's the individual. They don't just look at the group. It's a full individual. How are we helping that particular person today? That's all we look at. And the goal is to make sure that we're all also providing that same support to the family members with support groups. We also would do memory screenings and whatever else that we can do to provide them while they're in our program.
That's great. Wow, Leonora, what robust and meaningful work you do. That's great. And June, I know you were just here. If you have the ability to come back on camera, again, we'd love to see you. And if not, we'll circle back to you in a moment. So just give you a moment, June, to see if you're able to come back both on camera and video.
Alyssa, it looks like she actually might have dropped off the call, so
Okay.
I'll watch to see if she
That's fine.
rejoins.
So we'll wait for her to come back. So Shazia, Carol, and Janet, Leonora just spoke to a lot of different things, but I just want to ask, in particular, Carol and Janet, a really human question. So when you walk into Live Well, right, what feels different there? What makes you feel safe as opposed to other places where it just might be more stressful to live in a body that has a mind that's changing or to be a partner of a person. So what makes you feel safe?
I think the fact that just about everybody you talk to and do things with are wonderful. And they help you and ask what you want, and you tell them what you want, and they say sure, and we have a very good time.
Now, Carol, I think that as humans, we all hope that we show up with kindness. When you go other places, when you're not at Live Well, what's hard sometimes when you're not at Live Well in terms of the way people treat you?
I probably don't go out much. No, we go other places, but it's mostly by ourselves, right? Yeah.
Right. I think I've seen, it's a hard question to answer, but I think there are times that we go places and people rush. They want things to happen very quickly. And so if Carol is trying to go through a screening machine to get into arena, and she doesn't understand that she's got to put her wallet or all that kind of stuff somewhere, the people there were rushing her through or impatient with her. So I'd say impatient. And as Carol just said, people are very patient here. If she needs help, they'll assist her. They'll ask her if she needs help or not, and are all very, very patient. That sum that up pretty good.
Yeah. And Shazia, just adding to that conversation, right? We live in such a fast-paced world. We speak quickly. We assume that answers come instantaneously. As a professional in this space, with lots of people who are eager here to learn and be more inclusive, if there were some kind of general advice giving, if I'm a human in municipal government and I'm operating on the assumption that somebody walks into my space, I don't know their cognitive process, right? What's kind of good general practical advice as to how to show up and meet somebody who might be experiencing cognitive change?
I love that question, and I'm deciding which way to go, but I think I'm going to stick with maybe not a expert professional answer, but a human one, and that is, I'm going to pick up what Carol said. Kindness, right? You don't know what somebody's walking in with. Like all of us, and we talk about this here on campus, all of us have thought bubbles that float around our heads, right? There are multiple things that are happening in all of our lives. It doesn't have to be cognitive change. It could be so many things. And yet how we show up, just knowing that somebody else is showing up with all of this, and meet them where they are. I think part of the success that we're having at the Gathering Place Cafe is that there is an openness and an invitation to show up with all of the things, right? And that as human beings, creating a space where I can just come no matter what's happening with me and just get to eat good food, right? Get to make new friends. Sometimes we think we're creating inclusivity by creating these niche environments, right? But really, if you think about it, do you really want to be quote unquote, oh, that's the dementia place, and that's the place where you go when you have hearing loss, and yes, there are specialties that can help understand a specific process, but creating a space where that thing doesn't single you out, I think is part of what, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And Janet, Carol, what do you,
Yeah, I'd add to that. I think when you ask, when I enter the gathering place, I feel at home. I feel very welcomed. The energy is very welcoming. I'm always greeted with a smile. So if you're asking what people can do, greet people with a smile, a welcoming energy. And the gathering place was helped, the people living with dementia helped to design the gathering place. So when you're doing programs or whatever, ask people living with dementia to help design those programs. But it's a very welcoming, the Gathering Place Cafe is a very welcoming place. They have entertainers come, and almost anytime somebody is singing or music is played, where Carol leads the dancing often. They have a courtyard in the summertime where they invite, bands are invited, and dancing just organically happens there. And it's a place where not only people who are living here come, but people like Carol, who lives out in the community at home with me, comes for classes. And also the cafe is open to everybody. You don't even have to be connected to Live Well in order to come to the cafe. And once when a band came to the cafe courtyard, there were some people from the community, outside community that I'd never seen before. And we were all dancing. I'm trying to get them up dancing. And I'm, beckoning to come, and they hesitated, and finally they did. And I said, geez, where are you from? And they said, well, we just saw the sign here outside, so we decided to come and hear the band. And they said, but this is so much fun. We're going to come back. And they did. And so that's the kind of feeling. It's welcoming. You can come as you are. And
it's a lot of different things. It's not like one thing. It's like you can do this and I can do that, and you can be over there doing something else.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful.
And you're always, like I said, you're greeted with a smile, sometimes a wonderful hug. And conversations just happen organically, even to people you've never seen before. It's that welcoming energy in the cafe that is it means the world to me.
That's beautiful. So I just want to synthesize a few of the things that I've heard. So for folks who don't know, the Gathering Place Cafe is a eating area, right? Within Live Well, which is a dementia care facility in Southington that's open to the public. So even though there's a campus and there are residents who live there, that there's this community facing piece, that there's lots of programming. And Carol and Janet, I want to lift up a few things that you had said. So one, which I think is so important, is that Live Well asked people living with dementia, what do you want out of this space, right? So that there was this spirit of co-creation. Another thing that I heard that I feel like can't be overstated is just this like welcoming, open, kind energy and just moving at a different speed. So that's really important. And then the third thing that I heard is even though this is a space for people living with cognitive change, that it's not exclusive to people living with cognitive change. And in the end, that we all just want to be part of the world and in this big interconnected ecosystem, right? So I love the space as well, right? It's a space for everyone. So I think that's the message when we design spaces with changing bodies and minds at the heart of what we're doing. We're actually creating better places for everyone. June, I want to invite you into the conversation, and I'm so glad you're here. And I know you said this a bit when you introduced yourself, but how interesting it is to also at the same time be an aging services professional and somebody who's really gone through a journey of lived experience. I wonder if you're comfortable, if you could share a little bit more, kind of both of those roles and what the respite program at the Milford Senior Center meant to you in your household.
Yeah, first of all, I apologize. My internet went off for a second, but I'm reconnected again. I love the gathering. I love the idea of that it's so inclusive and it's a place where people have food, which brings a lot of people together all the time. I think what makes ours a unique also is I live here in a community. I'm lucky enough to live in a beach community where we walk and talk, and my husband, I think I shared, has passed away in October, but he had Lewy body disease for 6 years. And I saw him as time went on a little bit withdrawing from our friends and even the family a little bit. He'd be more of an observer. And when he went into this program, he felt so welcomed, and this was his world. As his world kind of was going one way with the dementia, it opened up a new world for him. And I think it gave him purpose too. He needed purpose in his life. And he'd come home and tell me how he helped other people with puzzles or did something, and just loved the program that way. I think that's so important, is that we always ensure that we're giving whatever program we're doing, make sure we have the inclusivity of purpose in it, and that every human wants purpose in their lives. And I liked that about it. It's where his friends were. Glenn did not go into the program easily. He looked at it as kind of a little kid when you took him to preschool, dragging his feet in the morning, trying to get him going. And then he'd get in there and he was Mr. Social and just said hi to everybody. And by 1 o'clock, when it was time for him to leave, he dragged his feet again, had to say goodbye to everybody, and just felt that this was his place. So I think it opened up a new world to him, and it just felt like that was his world when he would go there.
I'm so grateful for your sharing, June. This is a question that I want to open up to all of you. So I don't have lived experience yet, right? Yet of a changing mind or a changing body. And one of the other common threads that I've heard that I don't think is unique to dementia, but just an aging process for some people in general, is there's more of a hesitancy to go out. So part of it, you've all named that having a really welcoming space is important. I want to name a couple of things that were new to my learning, and if you want to add on to them or comment further. So, a really practical biological kind of reality, right? We all have to use the bathroom. And, just to make this really tangible, cute signage, right? Like non-clear signage in terms of, where I go and what I do, or iconography that might not be clear or artistic. What are some kind of like practical nuts and bolts things beyond just kindness that are necessary for somebody in a changing mind or changing body to navigate town hall or community spaces that were maybe new to you as a professional or an individual?
Do you have some practical things that are helpful to you in the space?
While you're all thinking, I can give another example. It was new to me to learn that like very patterned carpets, right? Like things with lots of swirls in them, can be very disorienting. So in the spirit of being inclusive, right, we may not know when there's a renovation of a town hall building that having non-complicated flooring, having something with a very plain pattern is really important to creating an inclusive space and making sure we're not excluding anyone. So just wondering, maybe we go around. June, I don't know, I can start with you. If something comes to mind that's practical nuts and bolts that might help towns in thinking in new ways about how spaces can be more welcoming.
Well, I think everybody knows about the ramps and the stairs and all of that. I think just making more visual signs around that. Oh, sorry, I don't know what that was. Just more visual signs, understanding that sometimes the brains are just like somebody shook them up and they need a couple more minutes. So never really, I'm kind of struggling with this because this isn't my area of how to develop these facilities. But, I found with Glenn, I just had to really give him time to do everything and not to rush it at all, and to have more visual signs for him. But that was more at home, not at a facility.
Jude, just in response to something you said, and then Shazia, I want you to go next. But Shazia, it was actually in a training with you that Live Well offered on Dementia Friends, where you named the statistic that asking somebody experiencing cognitive change, there might be as long as a 20-second process of receiving the question, integrating it, retrieving the response, forming the words, right? These are all things that we take for granted, many of us, in a brain that functions the way we've been accustomed to, and then change happens. I encourage all of you at some point to take out a phone timer and just feel how long 20 seconds of silence is. And that if you're running a town meeting, if you have some kind of process where you're collecting oral feedback, just how much space might be needed for someone to feel safe. And Shazi, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
great.
What's your kind of practical tip?
So I think the space wasn't created by just experts, right? Who have power and privilege and having town budgets and the ability to be elected into positions, right? Part of, I think, the creation of the space here on this campus it's taken years. It's not something that happens overnight, but getting that input and creating environments that are open and welcoming, right? There's intentionality even down to the color of the paint, right? What feels good, right? What creates the space. And also, and I want to go back, people matter. Sometimes you walk into an office space and yes, there are signs, but if my brain is changing and my challenges are around visual spatial acuity or language, having that sign isn't going to be helpful. But having a human, right? Like I think that's made a huge difference. And I know it's money and it's a salary and all those, or maybe it's a volunteer, but a person to help guide can make all the difference. Would you?
Yeah, because people, you come in and you go, oh my God, where am I? And there's 6, 7 people there that'll come and help you if you need it, because everybody is trying to help each other.
Yeah, I think one important thing is to having somebody at the door. We walk into Live Well, and I'd say we walk into the cafe, it's the same kind of feeling. We walk into Live Well and there's a woman, and I'm gonna name her Donna.
Yeah.
who greets you with a smile, every single person. And you know that you can go to Donna and ask her anything, and she will direct you anywhere you need to go. And when you walk into the cafe, Chris, I don't know his last name, runs the cafe. And I know with Carol, sometimes she's not sure what she wants for breakfast or what she wants for lunch. And he will say something like, well, sometimes you have this large coffee and a muffin for breakfast. Do you think you'd want that today? And what kind of muffin? So he helps clue her into what she might be desiring. Or sometimes she just spits it out but he does wait. He doesn't say, oh, you do this or you do that. He asks her and invites her to choose whatever it is she wants. But it's that engagement. Somebody's always engaged. With everybody. Yeah.
So yes, it is important, some of the practical things, right? The signage, make sure that it's readable, make sure there are more than just words, that there are depictions. Sometimes pictures are helpful, but I can't say enough about a human that understands a changing brain and really spends the time to help support and guide somebody in the day-to-day. There's got to be a person you can ask questions to.
And can I say one thing that is always amazing to me, and maybe you can't necessarily do this in a town hall or something, but I don't know how people learn everybody's names at Staffwell, at Live Well, at the staff learning names, but they greet you by name within the first week. They know your name, and that is so critically important. And a word about bathrooms, there's many of them.
There are a lot of them. You can find them if you want.
If you want a bathroom, you're not going to struggle to find it. And they have single bathroom, family kind of bathrooms, a number of them, and they have regular bathrooms with stalls. And yeah, so there's not a problem with finding a bathroom. You just have to walk 10 paces and there's a bathroom.
One last thing, a changing brain. For many of us, we think about memory loss, right? But I love that you brought up the carpets and we're talking about visual spatial. A changing brain can mean there's damage happening in your brain anywhere, right? It can affect your hearing, it can affect your vision, it can affect your memory, it can affect your speech, it can affect your language. So considering all of that can be a lot, but I want us to think beyond just memory loss, right? There's so much more that's happening with a human. And so the space that you're creating, yes, great to have a sign. Yes, great to have. And for somebody whose brain is changing differently, you may need to incorporate something else as well. So think when it comes to, sorry about that. Think broader when you think about brain changes, not just one aspect of brain change.
Such richness. Leonora, I'll come to you in a moment, but Shazia, Carol, and Janet, one thing that I'm thinking about, since I know a lot of folks who are here are affiliated with town government, is the lessons, they're not just limited to municipal buildings and libraries and programs, right? We're all part of this broader community. And I know you, LiveWell, have done work with the town of Southington and have done trainings with local business. So if there are any folks here who are in the space of economic development, thinking about how you empower businesses and other places of community gathering beyond government, around kind of, this very not just human element, but some of these physical elements. So there's this really beautiful role for leadership around all community spaces, not just those that are quote local government. Leonora, do you have anything else that you'd like to add around kind of general advice giving, practical advice for folks that either work in the senior center space or elsewhere, in working with folks who are experiencing changing minds and bodies?
Sure. So some of the things that were already mentioned, obviously having humans is very important to keep connected with others. In the Aaron's Respite Program, we have so many volunteers. It's nice because it's almost at a one-on-one scenario at times. We have a small group. It's only about 22 individuals that are in that program, but the volunteers add so much. If a person needs to move around, because let's face it, who wants to sit down in one space all day? A volunteer might say, let's go for a little walk. And they have this opportunity to, discuss where they are, orientate the individual, or just ask them how they're doing. So just being able to have that human connection is so important. Myself coming into the senior center, one of the first things I want to do is reduce visual disturbances and clutter. I wanted to reduce it down. So things were very much, you walk in, here's this, here's that, versus being bombarded with flyers and papers and this and that. And then also in the program, I wanted to reduce some of that visual noise for individuals as well. I'm really big into ensuring the floors and the walls have some contrast. My father lived with dementia himself, and he was also, visually impaired. So as his dementia changed and his vision also changed, I became his seeing eye daughter. And I would make sure that my dad was okay. So just giving him the direction and that reassurance. And that's when people don't have that on their own in their lives because they are by themselves. Spaces like this, the Aaron's Respite Program and senior centers offer that. So much so that I have members who, when they know an individual might be struggling, they themselves will often take that person under their wing and then also report back to us. So there's this community, kind of a community hug that occurs when you come into our center, where when something's off, people are aware and they want to help. It's a very helping environment. And, your built environment is at this moment, the way our built environment is not conducive to fully individuals who are living with a dementia, Alzheimer's, or with visual impairments. There's so many obstacles to get from the senior center to the post office, for example. So there's work to be done, even in our community. That's wonderful, just like all communities. And when we look at the built environment, the next movement towards that should be, how are our walking paths created? Are they visually okay? Are the timing of our buttons to cross the street sufficient for a person. There's so much that can be done to work on the built environment that we have. But once we have those structures in place, we will all be doing much better. We move away from stairs and look towards ramps, because a ramp can be utilized by anyone, whether they have the ability to walk independently or has some sort of mobility equipment. So I think overall, the movement towards the built environment and changing for an aging society is getting in that direction. It's been in conversation for the last 20 plus years. It's getting there. We're just not 100% yet. We might be at only 60% in most communities throughout the US, but it's in a direction that makes sense at this point. So, but back again into the senior center, it's making sure that signage, simplify, ensuring that the language of the person's choice, the cultural appropriateness as well. There's a big aspect that we don't always look at, is that there may be cultural aspects to a person living with Alzheimer's or related dementia that their family may not be in acceptance of or may not understand. So there's an educational part that needs to be built up to be able to support the whole community, care partners, community members, the individual, and then leading that up into the state and federal to provide what we need.
Leonora, I'm gonna pause there because I think we're moving to a space of unstable internet for you. But I want to thank all of our panelists.
For half a moment.
I want to thank all of our panelists so incredibly deeply for your sharing, and I hope that folks feel inspired to go to the Milford Senior Center, as well as to the Gathering Place at Live Well in Southington, as well as all of our other picks. So I want to thank our panelists. Feel free to head off camera, and we're just going to take these last couple of moments for all of you to learn how you can do great work to lift up the places in your community and either make shifts so that you arrive at a place of inclusivity, more deep inclusivity, or you're recognized for the great work you're already doing. So our work of Age Well across Connecticut is annual, and we're currently building our list for 2026. So some steps that all of you can take. So one, and apologies for the typo, the first box should read year round. Nominations are accepted year round and close June 30th each year. Before the end of the webinar, we'll put a link, if it's not in already, into the chat on how you nominate a place this year. We have a specific link to our nomination form. And every year, our annual picks are released in September in both list and map form. So in the next couple of weeks, if you have thoughts on great places in your community, please lift them up. It's a simple nomination process, and all we ask is for you to describe your nominee and how that place or program is intentional around aging inclusivity. Anybody can nominate, and there's no limit on the number of submissions, and picks from prior years can be nominated again. So we invite you to that process and are so thrilled at your willingness to help us build the movement and to lift up the great places where you are. And then the last thing that I wanted to share is the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative has an annual event. It's going to be September 15th this year in Weathersfield. It includes an afternoon workshop for towns that are interested in doing a deeper dive and networking with other communities who have been through a year-long process with us around aging inclusivity. And then in the evening, we'll have a celebration of all of the towns in Connecticut and including one awardee. This is the first time we're going to be providing an award to an Age Well Across Connecticut site. So hopefully you can be there for a good time and good conversation and a really uplifting evening as we do this work. So I want to thank you all for being here. And last thing I'll mention, since Claire Cote, I see you here, is that there is a national movement if you have specific interest in dementia called Dementia Friendly America. And the state of Connecticut has an incredible coordinator at the State Department of Aging and Disability Services, who, along with the Age Well Collaborative, can connect you and your community to resources if you'd like to become a more dementia-friendly community. So thank you all so much and have a wonderful afternoon and be well.
Connecticut, we age well, we age well, we all can. In Connecticut, we age well in every town across the lifespan. We all gather wisdom in our open hearts, growing stronger when we all belong. Opportunity in community, including everyone, is where it starts. In Connecticut, we age well, we age well, we all can. In Connecticut, we age well in every town across the lifespan. Got complete streets we can get around, housing choice and public space abound. Join our progress toward equity, deep connection, and inclusivity. Visioning the future, we listen and we learn. Let's go where we grow all life long. When we feel seen, you know we're shining bright. When we honor choice, we know we're living right. Follow all to chart systems change, to make places we can thrive. We'll plan and zone together. Dance here every season is good, it's so good, good to be alive. In Connecticut, we age well, we age well, we all can. In Connecticut, we age well in every town across the lifespan. In Connecticut, we age well, we age well, we all can. In Connecticut, we